The loudest, the biggest, the brashest. New York is its own character in every play.
The bad thing about New York is the pressure. You're always under pressure.
Here are the stories about those plays. It's New York Accent with Damon Amendolara.
Welcome to the latest installment of New York Accent, a project via Odyssey Sports, 2400 Sports, and WFAN here in New York. And we always have a great pleasure in being joined by players that played here in the New York region, but specifically those that have hung banners and their own numbers to the rafters. Those are really some of the special guests. And our next one has done exactly that. He was part of 4 Stanley Cup playoff final teams in New Jersey. He won 3 Stanley Cups, and his number 3 is retired by the New Jersey Devils organization. He's affectionately known as Mr. Devil and a member of the television broadcast on MSG. Joining us here on New York Accent is the great Ken Daneyko. Ken, how are you?
I'm very good. Good to be on with you. And when you mentioned in the 4 Stanley Cup Finals, I am still very disappointed that it wasn't 4-0. I know some people say that's getting greedy, but when you're up 3-2 in Game 6 in your building, and we could have been back-to-back champions at the time. That was disappointing, believe me, but Colorado was a heck of a team, so it is what it is, but that was tough, but you always want to win, that's for sure, regardless if you've won it before.
That speaks to your competitiveness, and I've spoken to some athletes who say the losses in championship games and Super Bowls, World Series actually stick with you more than winning World Series or Super Bowls or Stanley Cup Finals. Is that true? Do you remember the loss to Colorado more than you remember the 3 wins that you had?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember it more, but it stings because, like I said, that would have been back-to-back and so tough to do in any sport, but in particular in the National Hockey League with the competitive balance, but even more so today, obviously, with every year different teams in the finals, except for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who had a nice little run there 3 years in a row winning 2. But they probably feel the same way after going for a 3-peat and losing to the Avalanche. But it stings because, I mean, you get so close, and the ultimate goal is to win the Stanley Cup, to win the championship with a group of guys you went through a long year with, and especially, like I had mentioned off the top, to be up 3-2 in Game 6 in our building, to close it out, and we didn't get it done, and then we lost in Game 7. So, yeah, you always remember it because we had such a special group, and, at the end of it, it would have been 3 Stanley Cup championships in 4 years, and that would have been pretty special. But I'm not complaining. We got it done 3 times, and I was very grateful and fortunate and thankful to be on those 3 championship teams with just a great group of guys.
This year, when the Devils took out the Rangers in the first round of the playoffs, did it bring back some of the old grit, some of the old angst that you guys had between you and the Rangers?
Well, I've told many people and anybody that was around me when we were calling the games as well. I mean, I was as excited about that series as when I played. I mean, obviously being in New Jersey as long as I have, 40 years now, you just want their success. And I've been through the tough years like they've been through, and the ups and downs you go through in a career. And obviously the great year they had this season in the regular season. And then, playing your arch rival in the first round. And obviously it's a little more ramped up, a little more special. Rivalries to me is always what it's about. And that's what you want to see. You want both teams to be good. And in our area, in fact, when we saw all 3 locals, the Islanders, Devils, and Rangers make the playoffs this year, I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime again. So I was pretty excited because it puts hockey on the map, and to see all 3 teams in there. And obviously with the Devils beating the Rangers in what was a classic, exciting 7-game series, needless to say, I was pretty pumped, no question about it. And disappointed when they lost to Carolina, but that's all part of the learning curve and experience for a young group that made great strides this year.
You guys created a class organization, a model organization. As you said, you were in 3 Cup Finals in 4 years. Ultimately, you won 3 Cups along the way. Every year you guys were competitive, but that must have seemed like a total reach when you first got to New Jersey, even before they were named the Devils, when they had moved from Colorado. Take me back to the early days and what it felt like back in the wilderness when the Devils had just arrived in the middle of this tri-state area.
Well, first off, for any young kid growing up, and I grew up in Western Canada where hockey was a religion, as we like to say up there. You didn't skate, you didn't go out on the frozen ponds or outdoor ice rinks. You had nothing to do, and I was no different. I had a passion and a heart for the game of hockey, and believed from the age of 7, told my mother 10 times a day, I'm going to play in the National Hockey League. And she didn't really believe me. She used to pacify me. She thought I was dreaming a little big, I think, at the time, because she understood how difficult that may be to fulfill that dream. But when I got that call in 82, the original year, New Jersey, the Devils moved from Colorado, and there wasn't a team name, you're right, at the time. I didn't know where New Jersey was. I looked at my mother and asked, not a word of a lie, I said, "Where's New Jersey, Mom?" I had no clue. But it didn't matter where it was. I would have ran the 2,000 miles or so just to get that chance, to get that opportunity to fulfill my dream. And getting drafted was the first step. And yeah, it was in New Jersey. I didn't know a whole lot about it. I knew they weren't very good. I know that because they came from Colorado and the team had struggled, obviously. It had been moved a couple of occasions from Kansas City and Colorado and then to New Jersey when the late, great Dr. McMullen, who I just loved the man and became a second father to me, brought the team to New Jersey. And yeah, we had a lot of work to do to put the team on the map. But I was one of those guys just grateful to be drafted and wanted to be part of the solution. And we were a bad team for the first 5 years or so. But I didn't want to go anywhere else. This was the team that gave me my chance. This was the team that I wanted to be part of the solution and was hoping. And I would tell anybody within an earshot that we are going to become something someday. And I used to tell the Star Ledger that in the Jersey paper as well. And I think people used to laugh at me every once in a while, but I was just hoping I was going to be part of it when it turned, because I just had a belief inside that we are going to be good one day.
So when you're talking about the primitive early days of the Devils, then fast forward to 1995, when you're hoisting the cup for the first time and the organization is a champion for the first time, did you flash back to those early days?
Well, no question about it. I mean, just from the standpoint, it made it that much more gratifying to accomplish something with a group of guys that we went through a lot of lean years. And I in particular say Bruce Driver and Johnny McLean, who we had been together for 10 plus years with the organization and went through those lean years in the early 80s, mid 80s. And we made a point of going to the New Jersey Nets locker room, who we shared with the NBA basketball, and just taking a picture of the three of us. It meant a whole lot. And obviously just the group of guys we had. I mean, it was fantastic. And we traded a lot of great players along the way to build the team that you want. And obviously Lou Lamoriello, our general manager, being the architect and really turning the franchise around as far as really showing us what it took to win, and him building the team that you got to trade good players to get good players and build the team in the mold that he wanted. And obviously, I think for 10 plus years, like I was mentioning, Johnny Mack and Bruce Driver, the three of us were the last men standing, I guess you would say, from those really lean, tough years. And it was pretty darn special to hoist that Stanley Cup. And you always believe you're going to, as a player, and have a chance. And we were starting to get better. And we made the playoffs for the first time in 1988 and went on a heck of a run. Won a couple of rounds, just got in the playoffs last game of the season, and then ended up losing to Boston in 7 games. So I'm going, we're close. Should be the next couple of years that we're in a final or going to win. And it took 7 more years. So again, not easy to win in any sport, and certainly in the National Hockey League. But finally, 7 years later, after our first playoff appearance and what seemed to be the team turning the corner from 1988, ups and downs again until 95. But what a moment, and certainly to sweep the Detroit Red Wings in the finals, the best team in the National Hockey League during the season. And not many people in the media gave us much of a chance, but we were quietly confident because we had just come so close in 94 and felt we were going to win the cup, and had that epic series against our rivals, the Rangers, who went on to win the Stanley Cup. So we were just waiting to turn that switch on. We wanted just to get in the playoffs. Didn't matter how. We weren't that good that year, really, but we knew once the playoffs came, we had some unfinished business to do, and we certainly did that.
Did you want to face the Rangers as revenge for 94 because you would have lined up with them in the conference final, except the Flyers took out the Rangers. They swept them in the second round.
Yeah, look, when you're in the playoffs, you don't pick your poison. You play who's ever in front of you and get prepared for that team. So, I mean, it was about winning a Stanley Cup. It was Stanley Cup or bust for us in our mindset. People kind of had forgot about us from the year before in the hockey media in the world, because we kind of sauntered into the playoffs in 95. I think we were the 5th seed and just kind of had an up and down year. It was a shortened season, but it was all about the playoffs, and we were a very confident, veteran-laden group. So whoever was in front of us, we were going to hopefully beat and like I said, finish some business that we couldn't quite take care of in what was an epic series in the Eastern Conference Finals the year before against the Rangers. But the Philadelphia Flyers and us were on a collision course for the next handful of years as we kind of became the two top teams in the East that, for all intents and purposes, we're going to be facing each other if we're going to go to the Stanley Cup Final. And that materialized twice, obviously, in 95 and also in 2000, where we came back from a 3-1 deficit. So, like I said, in a roundabout way, it's whoever you face. If it was the Rangers, we would have had the revenge factor on our mind, but it didn't turn out that way. And we had an excellent Philadelphia Flyer team to try to get through, which we did.
You were a hard-hitting guy. You played with a lot of hard-hitting teammates. There was a blue-collar mentality to the Devils. And I wonder if that also, it came from clearly the region, the state, maybe overlooked by some New Yorkers in the shadow of the glitz and glamour of Manhattan, but also the arena seemed to, it seemed to reflect that right off of the Jersey Turnpike, and you have trucks going by, exit 16W, and the arena itself was kind of bare bones. Did you guys take pride in the fact that it wasn't a fancy, glitzy place that you played, and it kind of reflected the type of team you had?
Well, look, it is what it is. I mean, we wanted to put hockey on the map in New Jersey, and I took a lot of pride, certainly, about the Jersey name in front of it. We're New Jersey, not New York. And again, all it was is about winning for us with the Stevens and the Niedermayers and the Randy McKays and Oliks. We just had such a group of guys that knew how good we were and how good we could be, and it was going to take a lot to obviously win a championship. So if we were the little brothers, call it what you want. It didn't matter to us. It was all about winning and making the state proud and making our fans proud. And I hadn't heard a louder building than the Brendan Byrne at the time, and 19,000 plus. I mean, rocking, certainly when we were able to hoist the Stanley Cup in Game 4 in our own building. So it was ruckus. It was as good an atmosphere as I've ever seen, and we loved it. So I go back to winning. All we cared about was winning, and that was the mentality we had. We had a lunch pail kind of group, a lot of talent, a lot of underrated talent, because it was about the logo on the front. I know it's cliche, but our guys didn't care who scored. We didn't care who did what. It was all about having an impact every night for your team. And that was the mentality. And that's the only way you can win. And I still believe in that today, regardless how the game's evolved and the skill and things have gone in a little different direction, maybe not as intimidating or physical, but come playoff time, it's pretty physical, just maybe not as much fighting. Our era was our era, but it was, we could play it any way you wanted it. And if I look at our 95 team and our 2000 team, all of the Stanley Cup teams, we were built just like the Vegas Golden Knights. We were big. We were strong. We were deep. We didn't rely on one line. We relied on 4 lines. I mean, Randy McKay, 4th liner of the crash line, which was so instrumental to us winning in 95, had 8 goals. Bobby Holik, I think, had double-digit points. Peluso did his thing physically and chipped in a little bit offensively, and that's the 4th line. So it was just everybody, and I'm a believer still today's game, and you're seeing it evident with the Vegas Golden Knights. Size, skill, depth, not worrying about just having one line shut down and you're in trouble. And that's that's the way to have success. And I think that's why both teams that are in the finals have had some success, the Panthers and Vegas. But Vegas reminds me a lot of my 95 team, a lot of my 2000 team, where their top scorer this year had 66 points. But you could go 1 through 10 and they're all bunched and packed together because everybody contributes. And that just makes your team that much more dangerous. And those are the types of teams that I played on.
When you played, you infamously had your front teeth knocked out, and it was a symbol of the tough style that you played with and the rough and tumble style that the Devils played with in general. How do you eat when you got no front teeth? Nobody knows usually how this feels, how the sensation is, but what is that like?
Well, look, I had teeth that would flip in and out after games and before games, obviously, because you didn't want them in while you're playing. And I actually used to forget them on the road every once in a while. And trainers from Chicago or Minnesota or wherever it was would always be calling our trainers and say, Daneyko left his teeth again. We'll ship them overnight. And I go, damn, because we'd always be rushing back to cities. Look, that was part of it for me. If blood, sweat, tears, and teeth, I said, I used to say, and still say today, is what it took for me to be part of a championship team. And that's not a bad sacrifice, in my opinion. When it was all said and done, I was missing 13 teeth, and official record, I would say, for a guy that had to get 13 implants after my career. And the implants are much nicer than my original teeth anyway. But how did you eat? Difficult. My teeth would get stuck in certain meats. My teeth would get stuck everywhere. I'd have to pull them out, put them in. So yeah, it was a pain. It was a pain in the ass, no question about it. And like I said, I used to leave them all over. And a guy that loved corn on the cob. I was a corn on the cob guy, and I still would attempt to eat corn on the cob, and it was not easy with partials going in and out of your mouth and then pulling out during the time I was eating corn. So, but true story. That's all of what it was about back then. And like I said, I'd sacrifice those teeth every day for what we were able to accomplish as a team.
That is awesome. Well, you're a gamer. It doesn't surprise me that you would fight through adversity to eat your corn on the cob. That does not surprise me. It does not surprise me.
I didn't score much, and I understood that. I was a defensive defenseman who had to protect teammates, play tough hockey, and Lou Lamoriello, everybody knows the story, had sat me down, his first year there, and made sure I understood what my role was. He likened his team to an orchestra, and he said there's pianists, there's violinists, and there's drummers, and what category do you fall in there, Kenny? When I was getting a little power play time because Driver was injured, and I always wanted to do more. Everybody wanted to do more. We could do it in junior, but Lou made sure I understood. I was not the sharpest tool in the shed, I would say, back then, but I took it to heart. I knew what he meant. I was a drummer, and he said, if you master that role, you're going to play a long time in this league, and you're going to be a big part of this team. If I want to be a jack of all trades, master or none, I'll be out of the league in 5 years. So I really took it to heart. It was the best advice I'd ever had as a young kid. It was hard to hear, hard to take, because we always wanted to do more. He didn't care if I scored a goal, didn't care what I had offensively. If you chipped in once in a while, great. That was a bonus. But he made sure that in order for me to be part of the team and have success with this team and have an impact, I had to do my job. That was blocking pucks. That was losing teeth by getting in a scrap, protecting a teammate, stopping a goal at all costs. I was kind of like an offensive lineman, he used to say. He says, offensive linemen don't score touchdowns, so stop thinking about offense. If that happens to materialize once in a blue moon, great. You get excited about it, but that's not what you're here for.
You were such a tough individual, and everybody knew you as such, but you did battle with alcoholism during your career, and you were open about that in interviews following your detox and rehab. And you once said it was way scarier to enter rehab than it was to be punched in the head. And for most people, that seems crazy, but that speaks to how difficult it is to sometimes face your demons. I'm sure there are people that come to you to this day and thank you for being public. Maybe they've went through the same thing, but why is that so scary from a guy that we would look at the outside and say, that guy's got no fear in anything? We see him on the ice all the time.
Well, it's because when something has a hold of you, I mean, we believe we're invincible because of that toughness, because of that mentality to overcome anything. And obviously the hardest thing to do a lot of the times with anything, and certainly with addiction or alcoholism, whatever, maybe you can plug in many different forms of addiction. It's all relative to me, because it's all about overcoming and asking for help, and to have the humility and just the wherewithal to say, this has got me beat, I need help, was the most difficult thing. And obviously my career meant everything to me. The Devils meant everything to me. They were my team. I'd been there from day one. I loved the organization. I loved the team. And to be able to have to admit that, and by the way, the first time I went away public was 97. I think I was the first player ever in the National Hockey League. Not the first player to enter the program, because you didn't have to go public. I mean, there was about 4 or 5 guys prior to me, but they never went away public. I went away during the year, and I was playing well, and things were going pretty good, and I wasn't happy, and I was, just battling within myself, and knew there was a problem. I knew it was going to take a lot more than just waiting till the end of the season. And fortunately for me, the Devils and how long I'd been there, they didn't treat me like a piece of meat. They treated me like family and said, Kenny, you go take care of what you have to, and we're going to help you. When you get back, we'll be waiting. You know what I mean? And that in itself was probably the biggest, the biggest help for me, from the standpoint that I go, I'm walking away from something that I love dearly, the team, playing, to take care of something that's more important for the rest of my life. And that was alcoholism. And still at the time, I didn't know if completely I wasn't. And by the way, I'll correct you. I never went through detox once. And the rehabs I went to, because I went to more than one, because there's very rarely first-time winner. But they were amazed by it, and that's the tolerance my body had. I never went through detox. I would stop because I was a disciplined guy, and my career was so important. So I would stop for 3 months, 6 months, or before I got to rehab, I wouldn't drink, a few days, because I was scared enough to know I needed help, that I would curb it and things like that. But again, it's all relative, whether you drank every day, whether you drank at home, whether I was a nightlife guy. The engine was always going. So I was more of a binger, but play hard, party hard, as they said, and in particular back in those days. But, probably the most courage I've ever had is to admit I had a problem, and to continue to work at it. And, it took some time, even after my career, but coming up this August, 12 years sober, and, haven't looked back since then. And I'm grateful for that. I'm lucky, because if you don't have a little humility and a spiritual awakening, I like to say, it's going to be tough. And it took me a long time. I always joke, it took me 30 years to get 12 years of straight everyday sobriety, one day at a time, as they say. And yes, I'll leave it at this. The greatest satisfaction and as gratifying as winning the Stanley Cup is when I can help one other person. If I say one word or one thing or one sentence that helps them, because alcohol, drugs, eating, whatever, maybe it's an addiction. And if I had an illness that, whether it was cancer, whether it was anything that was inflicted upon you, would I do the things necessary at all costs to save me? Of course I would. But when it's addiction, we don't look at it that way, or a lot of people don't anyway, because, well, why do you drink? It's, just put it down. It's not good for you. It doesn't work that way. And that's why I think it makes it a little more difficult in a roundabout way to understand that, yeah, I got humble enough to say I could die. I could, I played the tape through now and understood down the road, if I don't get this right, my life's going to be shortened, and I may hurt myself or somebody else. And I didn't want that to happen. And, boy, it took a lot, but I got a lot of emails, a lot of letters, even during my career. And even when I relapsed and everything, you get guilty, gosh, these people are looking to me to help them. But there was times where I relapsed and I couldn't. And then until I got solid sobriety after my career, anytime you can give back a little bit and help one person, that's what we say, or one person in the room or one person out there. And yeah, I'm grateful to say I've had many people on social media DM me or ask me, how'd you do it? Or former teammates that are struggling going, Ken, you are the wildest of wild. How did you do it? And I said, I have no magic formula. I have no magic potion. Do you have the desire to stop drinking? If you do, call me every day. Reach out to me. I'm not going to hound you. I'm not going to judge you because you got to find your own path. And there's no, like I said, no magic formula how I did it. How I did it was, I always tell them, I got humble enough to say that I'm in trouble here. And if I don't rectify it, I'm going to die. It's simple as that. As they say, the old saying, jail's institution and death. That's where it leads. If you're a true alcoholic or addict, eventually it catches up to you. And fortunately, and for me, and I praise God that I got it right. And one day at a time, and I haven't had a desire to drink in 12 years coming August 9th. And like I said, I get old teammates calling me and I'm like, wow, who would have thought? Who would have thought? But I'm grateful they can call me and ask me anything, anytime. I said, I'm there for you, but you have to have a desire to stop. If you don't, if you're on the fence, you got to do more exploring. Come back to me, and I hope you come back to me in one piece, because if you think you got a problem, you probably do.
Well, congratulations on sobriety. That's a really powerful message, and I'm glad you corrected me on detox versus what you had done before, because that is an important delineation about
most
you.
Do, by the way, most do. And the rehabs, when I was being admitted, always said, we're sending you a detox. And they checked me out and they go, God, you really don't. You don't need detox. I just need you to go ahead into the program.
Wow.
So
Wow.
It doesn't matter one way or the other. I just bring that up because it's kind of funny in a way where they go, 90% of our patients need detox. Didn't make me any less of an alcoholic.
But it does speak to your personality and what you were going through. Like you said, you were disciplined enough to take yourself away from alcohol, but you still knew in the back of your mind you had to defeat it somehow. Before I let it go, I want to go to your final shift in 2003, Game 7 Stanley Cup Final. You had known that you were probably going to retire that offseason. It's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. You're going to hoist the Stanley Cup. And what does it feel like when you take the ice for the final shift?
Oh, man. I mean, I could go on and on with this story, and I've told it many times. And look, you get older. I was 39 years old. I played 20 years for the Devils along those lines, or 20 years in the organization. So as a competitor, it's not easy. I play every playoff game up till then, as everybody knows, in Devils history. I knew going into the playoffs that I may be in and out of the lineup because Lou had already prepared me a little bit. And I was, going to make scratch and claw to make sure I'm not out. And I think I played, I don't know, the first 12 or so games of the playoffs, something like that. I give or take, and maybe not that many, maybe a handful. I'd played 175 straight, and then I was going to get a healthy scratch in the second round against the Boston Bruins. And of course it's disappointing. And I didn't always see eye to eye with the late, great Pat Burns. And that happens with coaches. And that's just because we were competitors. And obviously, I was a healthy scratch in Boston. Then I got back, and then I was out. And look, I always said it takes 25, 26, 27 guys if you're going to win a Stanley Cup. Every guy's going to have a moment where they're part of it, and that means you have depth. But yes, I understood where I was because we had some younger guys in Trevodosky and other defensemen and Richard Schmelik they traded for that may be in for me at times, and depending on matchups and depending on what Pat Burns thought. But I wasn't happy. We battled for sure, but I just wanted to win as bad as anybody. But yeah, you take it to heart, obviously, and I know the fans wanted me in. The media even was kind of on my side. So Pat, being a tough guy as well, just like me, I didn't feel he handled it very well with the press, and that's what bothered me most at the time. And I went to Lou and said, Lou, you can scratch me, and I used explicitives, but I said, take the high road. And he says, I'll talk to him. I'll make sure I talk to him. I said, been here a long time. All I want is an ounce of respect. He's got tough decisions to make. I expect that. And certainly it was in and out. And then I played game 6 and 7 against Ottawa, who was the best team in the National Hockey League. They won the President's Trophy. They were a great team. I played 6 and 7. We somehow beat them, and we're going to the finals. So I anticipate I'm going to start the finals. I just played against the best team in game 6 and 7. Then he informs me I'm not going to be in game 1. And now I'm like, Jesus, I was disappointed for sure, but I was more at the stage where I go, okay, just do whatever it takes and be ready. And, it doesn't matter. You've been part of this a long time. Figure it out and just work hard because they may need you. Sure enough, we win the first 2, and I'm not going to get in. We lose the next 2, so I think maybe I'm going to get to Anaheim, the Ducks we played that year, and I think maybe I'm going to get in game 5. And I was really working hard to stay ready. Don't get the call for game 5, and was a little disappointed, but I made sure, Trevor Oski was in for me, and I developed a great relationship with him. And I'd go to him and say, Trev, if you see me walking around here grumpy, and angry, that's because I'm a competitor. This isn't on you. You go do your thing, man. We need you, So I was about winning. You're always, like I said, disappointed. And I think I gave him a little relief because I know at times he was feeling even a little guilty being in for me, the longest tenured Devil. And I said, you just go do your thing, man. I just want to win. And that's just me. I'm just angry and grumpy because I'm a competitor, but let's just win. So I don't get in 5. We win. So obviously I'm not going to get in 6, which is back in Anaheim. We lose in Anaheim in game 6 and fly right back. Only one day in between, long west to east coast trip. I think it was a Wednesday. Our last game 7 was a Friday. We don't leave till the next morning because we wanted to be rested, no red eye. Get in about 6 p.m. We're staying at the hotel in Jersey to get a team dinner, get ready for game 7. And Pat Burns grabs me after the bus arrived from the airport at the hotel and grabs me and says, Kenny, I want to talk to you. Pulls me aside and he says, you're in tomorrow night. Don't tell anybody. And he walked away from me. Not another word. I'm shaking my head. I'm kind of in tears. I'm like stunned. I'm in stunned disbelief going, now I think he's making the wrong decision. Now I think, what is going through this guy's mind? He's absolutely certifiably insane. I hadn't played in 2 weeks. It's one game, winner take all. I just wanted to win. I wanted to win for guys that had never won a Stanley Cup and get to experience it. I didn't need to be in anymore. But sure enough, he told me, and I called my dear friend in Jersey for 25 years, called my family and said, you're not going to bleep and believe this. My buddy right away goes, you're in tomorrow night. I go, how the hell would you know? Because I certainly didn't expect this. I thought the coach Burns was insane. I'm going, and now I didn't think he was making the right decision because, again, I wanted to win and I hadn't played in a while. I didn't want to be that guy that maybe made a mistake because of rust and was going to maybe cost us a close game. And my buddy said, Kenny, you played over 1,400 games in this league, playoffs and regular season. He had to calm me down because I felt like a rookie. He says, like riding a bike, I think you're going to be okay. You've been through it, my man. And he kind of, right there, I took a deep breath, said, yeah, you're right. I played a lot of hockey in this league.
Yeah.
And then it was sure enough when I wasn't a healthy scratch. Media didn't know till I was going on the ice. And they skipped my name in the healthy scratches. And I heard a roar from the dressing room from the fans because I had such a great rapport with the fans and obviously been there a long time. And they were the ones who nicknamed me Mr. Devil. And I was honored with that after my career. But they'd heard, I heard a roar and I'm going, oh boy, and then I walked out my first shift, they all stood up and gave me a roaring ovation. And I was like, every time I touched the puck and, I knew I wasn't going to play a lot, but I was just do my job. You know what I mean? And sure enough, every time I touch puck, I'm getting back to the bench. I'm telling myself going, I wish they'd be quiet, shut up a little bit because you're making me nervous. But that was the love I had and relationship I had with all our wonderful Devils fans, and they were pumped I was back in the lineup. And you know what? And then we end up winning, and Pat Burns puts me out the last shift because everybody knew. I didn't know midway through the season, but I thought maybe I'd play one more year or try to. Everybody knew this was it for me. We were up 3-0. That's all my emotion was running through my mind. Everything what a way to go out. This is it. We're going to win the Stanley Cup. And it's every athlete's dream. I still get goosebumps talking about it because I was just so grateful to my teammates and the organization and Pat Burns. It was a rocky relationship between the two of us, not because we both just had a ton of competitiveness and just wanted to win. And you realize when your career's over that they have tough decisions to make, right, wrong, indifferent. It doesn't matter. They're making it for the best of for the best decision for the team, what they think at the time. And so I respect that now. You don't while you're in it. I went to him after, and next morning, I handed him a cigar. He likes cigars. I like celebratory cigars. I said, Pat, I know we had a rough go of it sometimes, but I said, I'm forever indebted to you and so thankful, because this is it for me. I'm retiring. There's no questions. I have nothing else to fulfill. I'm going out on top. And you put me back in there and gave me that last shift. And I had tears in my eyes talking to him. And Pat, who's not a man of much emotion, gave me a hug too. And he says, Kenny, you don't know how tough it was for me to scratch you. I know what you meant to this team. I know what you meant to the organization, but I had a job to do. And I said, I understand that, Pat. And I said, all that doesn't matter now. I'm grateful and indebted to you. And thank you so much for putting me back in. And what he said to me, he says, Kenny, he says, he talked to Scott Stevens on the plane ride. And he sat down next to him and said, Scotty, I'm thinking of putting Daniel back in. What do you think? Because it's about winning. This is a tough decision because you got to make sure, because I thought it was the wrong decision at first look. And Scotty said, absolutely. He says he knew right away. Pat said, my reason was we needed that intangible. We needed that, whatever it took in Game 7, the fans, the reaction, the emotion that you're back in the lineup, because we know what you've meant to them and to the organization and what they meant to me. And that was the intangible. He said, it didn't matter. I was getting in. I just wanted to affirm it with Scotty Stevens, the captain. And thank God Scotty didn't go, I don't know, Pat. Because he could have, and maybe Pat would have thought about it. But from what I heard, I've never asked Scotty about it. What I heard, and I know I went on long here, but there's only one way to tell the story. And I had to explain it. And Pat, he had told, assured Pat, put him back in. Absolutely. He will give us a little boost. The dressing room will be pumped. The building will be stoked. So that's the story, and the rest is history. And what a feeling. And like I said, I could care less what Pat and me went through. I'm so grateful to him, and I love the man now, and God rest his soul. Even if he didn't put me in, I would have loved the man because we would have won as long as we won. But yeah, it made it a little extra special.
Well, I'm glad you gave us the full version of that story. That is an amazing, amazing story, and a storybook ending to an amazing career. And I'm so glad that you took time out to speak to us because these are just fantastic, fantastic stories. You have a ton of fans out there, as you said, a real connection with the fans. And so you can follow Ken on Twitter at Ken Daneyko, MSG. Of course, you can watch him on Devils broadcasts, and he's on Cameo as well. And so he's very accessible to the fans. And I think that's the way the Devils fans really appreciate you so much from over the years. It's so great to have you here on the show. You can subscribe to New York Accent by going to the WFAN YouTube channel and subscribing there, or on the podcast as well. And Ken Daneyko is Mr. Devil. Ken, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for doing it. This was great.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Sorry if I went on a little long, but
not at all.
As anybody that knows me, I can't tell a short story. You need another 3 hours to list the stories throughout my career, but I will end it with, I'm saying, great being on with you. And like I said, it's all about those 200 plus teammates I played with through my 20-year career and the support I got from the fans. That's what meant everything to me. That's what it's all about as far as being a pro athlete and being part of one team for so long. I was grateful for, but those teammates and the things you go through with the ups and downs and in betweens. And again, I thank Scotty Stevens for not questioning Pat Burns. His answer right away was absolutely.
I'll tell you what, that's great. Yeah, and the next 3-hour episode that we'll do an hour on the Spokane Flyers years, okay?
Where it all started, yep.
It all started, yeah. Ken, thanks so much. This is great. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy New York Accent, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more episodes like this one. Also, if you want to watch more episodes of New York Accent, check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you for the next episode of New York Accent.